Hey there, David Cordero here for another Guitar Basics series at Pass the Guitar Live. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to play the G chord or G major. And although there are many ways you can play this chord, in this lesson, we're only gonna cover the two most used ways. And it's also important that you know what a chord diagram is and how to read one. But if you don't, that's okay. Check out this video and then come back here. Well, if you do know and you're ready to move on, let's waste no more time and dive right in. All right, it's time for us to take a look at some chord diagrams. Let's start with this one here. Well, as you can see, there are no axes, which means that we do not need to avoid or skip any strings. And that's always great news because we can play all of the strings. Fantastic. Well, we see three circles here on strings number 4, 3, and 2. And that means that we're going to play those three strings open. We see also three black circles with numbers 1, 2, and 3 written on them. That means that we're going to use fingers number 1, 2, and 3 on those specific frets. Well, let's start to place our fingers on the fretboard. Let's start with finger number 1. We see 1 on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. All right. Finger number 2 is showing on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And finger number 3 is all the way down on the 1st string, 3rd fret. Big stretch here. You're going to have to work a lot. A lot of beginners will struggle with this big first stretch here. It takes time, but you got to work on it. Before we even try to strum this whole chord, you know the drill. Let's check to see if all the strings are ringing and they are sounding clean. All right, here we go. 6th string. I got the sound here. 5th. Muted. Oh, not good. Not good. Right, getting here the 2nd. And the 1st is buzzing a little bit. All right. The three things that we have to always consider when we're placing our fingers on the fretboard. First of all, is because I have my 2nd finger here on the 6th string and I'm not using the tip of my finger, I'm using the flat area of my finger, you can see that my fingers actually, I can feel the strings touching all my finger underneath here. So if I do this, and use the tip, I'm already gonna help be able to hear the note that I have here on the 5th string. Oh, look at that. Now I actually get that note. And it's probably gonna fix many of the problems that I had with the chord initially. See, now I also hear the 4th string, the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st is still buzzing. And the reason why it's buzzing is because I have my 3rd finger way too to the left, like closer to the fret bar on the left. And although we have a lot of space on the frets in the beginning of the neck, we always need to try to push our fingers and be closer to the fret to your right if you're right-handed or to your left if you're left-handed. Just with that, I'm gonna check the 1st string. Now I have the sound. Fantastic. I also feel that it's important for me to say that you gotta find a way to not allow your thumb to be too far up, because and then this is what happens when I open my hand. You see my hand is touching the bottom of the neck here, and that's not a good thing to do. So in order for me to avoid doing that, I gotta place my thumb down a little bit, not all the way down, but just down enough that I can push these knuckles forward a little bit and then create that gap. Bring my fingers back there, and then now I'm gonna open and close, and you see that I have a little bit of gap, and that is gonna help me avoid problems with strings being muted or buzzing. Beautiful, now I have a full G major chord. Now I can strum it. All right, we do have another version of it. And the other version is this one here. Well, it's so similar. The difference here is that we actually see 4 black circles and numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are no X's and only 2 circles. So there are only 2 strings that we're going to play open. In this case, the 4th and the 3rd. And then number 4 in this case is our pinky. So most of the chord is the same. So first finger goes on the 2nd fret of the 5th, second finger goes on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and then now my ring finger, my 3rd finger, instead of going on the 1st string, it's gonna go on the 3rd, on the 2nd, and my pinky is gonna take the place of the note that my 3rd finger was for the other version that we were doing. And in this way, although we're using the pinky, which is a weak finger, it's hard to use when you're a beginner, but I highly recommend you start from the get-go, from the beginning, using your pinky. I had to learn that the worst way because I didn't use my pinky for many years on my early years of playing the guitar. So I had to practice relearning everything later on, which is always the worst option. So in this case, I'm gonna use my pinky, but I diminished that gap. So it's not so hard to bring my 3rd finger down there, and it feels more ergonomic to actually use my pinky there. And the same strategy, right? We move all our fingers forward, we make sure that our thumb is not sticking out like this, and also that we have some gap here. And that we're using the tips of our fingers, this area of the fingers. Let me put my fingers there. See? I still got some buzzing right here on the 5th. And that's because I gotta move my knuckles forward because we do have a little valley here. See? This area here sometimes touches the strings below. So make sure that you have your knuckles forward, not too much. You gotta make sure that you don't hurt your wrist. And then use your tips. With that, I guarantee you're gonna get a clean sound out of all of the strings. And then you may be asking me, David, why would I choose to use a G major with 4 fingers when I could be using only 3? Well, when we choose different fingers for chords, we do so thinking first and foremost, helping transition between chords. For example, if I have, and I'm using this one, if I have to go to D major, the D chord, I already have my 3rd finger in place. Look at that. I'm gonna keep that finger in place and go to D major. Keeping it in place, go back here to G major. Fantastic, right? There is even a song by Oasis, Wonderwall, pretty famous, pretty popular song. And in that song, the chords are played with these 2 fingers in place all the time. See, I never moved these 2. It's great to know this version of G major. There is also another way to play this version of G major with only 3 fingers. I see a lot of people using fingers number 2, 3, and 4 instead of using finger number 1, playing like this. So you use finger number 2 for the 5th string, 2nd fret, finger number 3 for the 6th string, 3rd fret, and the pinky all the way down on the 1st string, 3rd fret. It feels really weird. I never really got used to this way, but it's important for me to say that to you guys because most of the people that do that, they do because it feels easier to go to C major from here. Although there are no fingers in place already, your index is free to go to the 1st fret here, and then all you have to do is move these 2 down. So you see that there is not a lot of movement going from G major here to C major here. But if I did like this, a lot of movement, right? Even if I use the 4 fingers here, it really doesn't matter. So another thing for you guys to consider would be to use G major with only 3 fingers, but instead of avoiding using your index, letting it be free, so that if you need to move to C major, you would be ahead of the game. And that's a wrap for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot. And don't forget to support us by smashing that subscribe button, clicking on that bell, and liking this video. My name is David Cordero, and I'll see you guys on another video.